Hello and welcome to ThursdAI, everyone. Welcome to Thursday for March 19th. My name is Alex Volkov. I'm an AI evangelist with weights and biases. Coming to you from Colorado, a sunny Colorado, very nice weather outside. I want to add to the stage Wolf from Raven Wolf and LDJ are here with us. What's up, folks? Welcome.
Hi, Alex. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. I'm a little under the weather, so we'll see. So often the show gives me a lot of energy, so I'm hoping that that's what's gonna happen. But for folks who are listening and tuning in, I apologize in advance if this comes through. And I generally am excited. Very interesting week starting with GTC. So I've been following that, and I would love to chat about this as well a little bit. How about you? How are you doing? What's new?
Very interesting. Yeah, doing a lot, working a lot, having new stuff to show them very soon. And yeah, I'm great. How are you, LEJ?
LDJ, how are you,
Hello.
man?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. Caught me by surprise when yesterday it was revealed that that stealth model on OpenRouter turned out to be from Xiaomi of all companies. So
Yeah.
we'll cover that later.
Yeah, we'll definitely need to add this. I don't know if I have this in my notes, but I'm very happy to have you guys here to back it up. Nistan, how are you doing?
I'm good. I am just completely lost this week, guys. I have no idea what's going on, so I'm just waiting to find out.
So that's great for our audience. Nistan is going to represent you guys if you were also down in the rabbit hole coding and doing some stuff. I didn't have time to follow up. That this is why we're here for. This is what we're here for. Maybe we can start with just kind of the highlights. I think also we're gonna have some breaking news. I'm pretty sure the rumor mill is spinning. We're gonna have some breaking news from some agentic AI companies. But let's go around and talk about. You know what we didn't do for a while? We didn't give an update about anything that happened before. So like usually we talk about something as it drops, and then we have a week to play with this, and then we kind of move on because there's a lot of news for this new week. But I do want to chat about if there's any follow up from the tools or the models that we talked about last week or before. If there's one that we're using, not necessarily related to the releases of this week, we'll get to them. I wanted to ask you guys, where are you? What are you using? Which are the top models? I'm pretty sure that folks who listen to us would also like to know where we land.
Yeah, as for me, I'm still using Gemini 3 Pro and Opus 4.6, while Opus is now currently, my main model. I'm switching between the two usually, but Opus is my main again.
Yeah, I've been using more and more the Codex app, the desktop app. I've been listening to what Ryan has been saying when he's on here about that switching time and how that affects productivity, and I've been kind of experimenting with sticking to one versus switching, and just more and more I find myself it does help to stick to one, and that one that I've been sticking with is Codex. Yep.
I think more and more people are sticking with Codex specifically, which is great.
What about you, Alex? Are you using Codex more?
I can't say I'm using Codex more. I have tried running OpenClaw with GPT 5.4, and it's great. And we'll talk about it. It's became significantly better, but it's still there's no soul there. I don't know how to explain this. There's something. I keep sending you screenshots. It's like your robot friend, and Cursor just like occupies the whatever soul of the soul document that you give it, and it's just like way more helpful. So I'm back on Opus. Back on Opus on OpenClaw. For other things, I keep using everything as much as possible, just to see if one of them will give me a better answer. So I do a lot of cross comparisons. But yeah, definitely Opus still feels like it's out of distribution crazy. Open source, I do use. So we talked about this last on the show. I use the Nemotron 120B inside the Hermes harness from News Research, and I kind of like set it up on a lark just to test it out before the show. And yesterday I got a notification out of the blue like, hey, your home alarm is having a trouble with low battery on this sensor. And I was like, huh. Well, how do you know? So even the model that's open source, it's running super fast. Can give you good results. Now I can't seem to cancel that notification with that model, so I need a bigger model to be able to cancel this. But yeah, I do use that from open source, the Nemotron 120V, Nemotron 3 Super. Listen, how about you?
So I tried using Nemotron for coding, and it just wasn't vibing. I think once the code base gets too big, it's only Kimi that can kind of hold it together.
Mhm.
So I actually used open code almost all week. And then sadly, like 2 days ago, I just switched back to Opus. So you can actually code, it can vibe code. But then when the app gets too big, I think the open source ones can handle the DevOps as reliably. But it was actually for a good few days, I was pretty happy with just using open code. And if you don't have a very complex app, because it comes with Kimi by default, and you can use it for like 2 days for free or something. But also the credits are a lot cheaper. Yeah, I switched back to Opus. So I use Opus, and I just fire up whenever there's free time, because there's double up now after between 8 and 11. Well, it's between 11 and 2 p.m. Eastern. As long as you use it outside those hours, so as soon as you use it after 2 p.m. Eastern, you get double the amount of quota on Cloud Max. So I've just been firing up Sonnet agents with that to just build the data sets. And yeah, that's been pretty good. So. And the quota does not count towards your weekly limit. So it's a good 2 weeks to be using Cloud Code.
Yeah, Cloud Code is it's been having issues for a while. There's I think 4 downtimes since we last talked to you guys on Cloud Code, but I think they're making up for it. So it's very interesting. Maybe to keep our audience up to date, the folks at Codex at OpenAI, for the past 2 weeks or something, every time they had a bug, and they had a few bugs, Thibaut from the Codex team hit that reset limits button. So everybody became to expect that every bug that they report will basically reset the limits to everyone. And so basically folks on Codex coded with no limits. Anthropic did not reset any limits, but Anthropic did make them twice as big for off-peak hours. So if you are on Max Plan, I think on the Pro Plan as well, you'll get twice the Anthropic usage. And
they increased the maximum context to the million for everybody now. That's the standard. This is a big change for a lot of people. I hated hitting the 200K limit, and it was more expensive if you went past it. But now up to 1 million, it's all the same price, and you get it by default. That is a big move.
I think that's huge. Honestly, I think that this is like the number one thing that started the AI week for me. Wolfram, thanks for bringing it up. Anthropic 1 million context for Opus 4.6 was announced when Opus 4.6 released. We got super excited. We saw the price and we got less excited because it was really expensive. And then also it was like, it was experimental. Now we should look at the MRCR long context benchmarks to see Anthropic Opus 4.6 is really good in long context. It's really, really good. And so it was really exciting. It's exciting also because for folks, give me a second, it's for folks who are having long conversations, compaction is one of the things that kills the mood. Even though it's a cool technology where the AI reads your whole conversation again and tries to summarize only the most important parts, compaction still kills the mood, because then your agent is going to wake up and like, what's going on? Why? I just went to compaction. I don't understand. So supposedly with longer context, you avoid that issue. The thing that Anthropic did is that they made the 1 million token context window default in Cursor, so in Cloud Code, and the pricing remained the same, which I think is absolutely huge, absolutely huge. So now, even in OpenClaw, which supports it, now you have 1 million tokens to chat with, which is huge. Listen,
yeah, just to let people know, it will still compact around 170,000 tokens. So you have to set the auto compact limit higher if you need that. I still leave it at that, because if it's doing too many tool calls and stuff, after 200,000 tokens, you just go through your limit a lot quicker. So yes, you can turn. You actually have to go and turn off the limit to make use of it. And yeah, so just be careful on that. I would set up. I think it's able to. You can set up your agents so that the agent itself has a higher limit, and then when you want to do a full code review, you just grab everything because it might be above 200,000 tokens, and you just give it to that agent that actually has the limit off. But yeah, I just want to let people know that it will still auto compact by default, even though it's at 1 million. It will still auto compact that.
That's a great call out, Nistan. All right, let's get to Yam with Yam. We're basically covering what is the current stack that we're using. And as a reminder, sometimes we talk about a piece of news from last week and we kind of don't follow up. So this is a great time for us to follow up. What are you using? What's your go-to? What's your default right now?
I'm using Pi actually for the past couple of weeks. Mainly because it allows me to just replace the engine. When I run out of quota, I switch between Claude and Codex, and usual stuff. I think everyone is facing the same issues at the moment. For I don't know, planning human to human talk, you can say human to nearly human. I'm using Opus, a lot of Claude. And coding, I nearly always use GPT 5.4, and sometimes I mean I like developed the feeling for what type of code is gonna work better for each one of them. So sometimes I do use Opus for code, but it's mainly just one of them, just switching between one another. And I just want to say, I didn't know that Cloud Code is auto-compacting still. That's new. I heard it for the first time. And I just want to say that even if it's not auto-compacting, you do unfortunately feel that the context is long. So, it is very useful to have a long context, but, context engineering and all of these things that you do are very relevant, even when the context is 1 million.
It does get stupider. It does get stupider.
Yeah.
Like no matter, there's no way to escape this. Around Wolfram, I think you had a good rule of thumb. Around half of the context window is where you can expect good performance, and then less.
Doing a bit better in that regard, but yeah, you notice usually if you go up to half, then you can notice.
Yeah. All right, folks. How about we start with the TLDR and then we dive into the topics. I'm hoping for a very chill stream this week. Maybe because I don't have as much energy because I'm sick, but I'm hoping for a very chill. We can do conversations. We don't have guests today, so no time pressure to run. And I'm hoping to conclude this under 2 hours. So let's jump into the TLDR. Here's everything that we have to talk about this week on the show. Let's go. Righty, here's the TLDR. Here's all the topics that we have to cover on this week's March 19th ThursdAI. With you, your host, Alex Volkov, AI evangelist with Weights and Biases CoreWeave, my co-host Wolfram, Yam, Peleg, Nistan, and LDJ. And then we're going to start with the big companies, LLMs and APIs segment. As we already told you, Anthropic makes Opus 4.6 with 1 million context the default for Cloud Code. And in the Cloud Code app as well. This is great news for folks who are having long conversations and struggling to have it remember multiple stuff. OpenAI comes out and drops GPT 5.4 Mini and GPT 5.4 Nano. Those are optimized for coding and computer use, smaller and significantly cheaper models. And we're going to cover this for you as well. In addition to this, they have launched subagents within the Codex app and the Codex CLI. And these two releases are hand in hand because when you spin up subagents, the cost can get away from you super quick. And so when you have a mini model that's very performant on code, you now can spin up subagents with it. So we'll definitely chat about 5.4 mini. The benchmarks are pretty interesting. In the open source, I don't know where it's here. Let's move this to open source and then cover it in open source. So moving on, big companies and APIs. One of the biggest companies in the world, obviously, Nvidia, has currently still is hosting pretty much every company under the sun in the Nvidia GTC event. We rarely cover full GTC. I think GTC is too big to cover, but I do want to mention something from GTC. Maybe one or two things from GTC, but would love to hear from folks here, their highlights if you followed any kind of stream from GTC. And then we have, for the first time, Minimax shows up in the big companies. Minimax released M2.7, a follow-up on their Minimax 2.5. The first self-evolving model that helped build itself with 56% on WolfBench Pro. Now, this, as far as I saw, has not been open source yet. So we're not going to put this in the open source LLM area, but it definitely looks like a great release from Minimax. Anything else on big companies, folks? Anything else on the area of huge companies, LLMs?
Yes, I think Xiaomi is a pretty big company, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, it turns out that their stealth model on Open Router, which for the past couple days was actually #1 on Open Router in terms of usage, turns out it's from Xiaomi, and it's an omnimodal model and a language-only 1 trillion parameter model. So we'll cover that later, and it'll be pretty interesting.
Yep. Xiaomi is a Chinese giant, obviously. Not their first entrance, if I recall correctly. I think we had something from them before. I can't remember the name of the model. Alicia, do you remember the names of these models? Do you have them handy for you?
I believe it's Mimo, but it's a newer Mimo because they've had older ones. So if you look up Mimo, M-I-M-O V2 Pro. Actually, I'll just put the details in the StreamYard chat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. So yeah, that's great. Xiaomi is a big company for sure, and Open Router unveiled that I think when Open Router kind of like shows stealth models, people jump in on this because they kind of think maybe this is DeepSeek, maybe this is this, that. So just having a stealth model on Open Router also means it's free. So the companies are testing on it, and this is a good reason why models are getting excited. But Mimo V2 Pro and Mimo V2 Omni and TTS are out. Thank you, LJ, for the source. And then we will add this to our coverage. Anything else in big companies?
I'm just saying they were extremely high ranking. This is why everyone was talking about them, and I think most of us anticipated it's GLM. Actually, it's the next GLM model, but no. Turns out it's a completely new player in the top of the leaderboard. It's not that they didn't release anything; they absolutely did. It's just, everyone is trying to top the leaderboard, and when someone all of a sudden just jumps, without any previous candidates, that are climbing the leaderboard like out of the blue, it's pretty surprising. You have some pretty serious players on this leaderboard from all around the world, so it was surprising.
Yep. So we're gonna continue to, I think, open source, unless Wolfgang, you have any.
Just a quick thing. Since you mentioned the soul of the model that you can feel with Opus, but not so much with GPT, I felt this with this model as well. So not sure if they also trained on entropic traces, but I talked to it, just chatting with it a bit in German too. And that is something the Chinese models have always very much lacked in. But this one, it really felt like definitely SOTA in that department, from the writing, from the soul of the model. So I was very excited about this, and I hope it will be open source.
It looks like folks are pinging us as well that in other big company news, Google is introducing a new vibe coding experience in Google AI Studio, and Logan Kilpatrick just posted about this. So thank you, folks, for pinging us about this piece of news. I'm going to run this through the ringer, so we'll have the details. and then we're going to continue to open source meanwhile. I think that this is it for big companies. Let's move. In open source, I think the most interesting thing that I've seen is that we have Mistral Small. Mistral is back with an open source model. Wolfram, you've been looking at this. 119 billion parameters, mixture of experts, with 6 billion per token. So very, very, very sparse. Unifying reasoning, multimodal encoding under Apache 2 license. So shout out to Mistral. Mistral, in a very strong Mistral fashion, compares themselves only to other Mistral models in this eval. So we're going to take a look at some of these numbers, maybe run and compare them to other ones. But Mistral,
we have our own evals as well now.
Yeah, we have our own evals as well. Have you been able to evaluate this, Wolfram?
Yeah, I did all of the new ones except for the Xiaomi one.
Nice.
But we can later look at these.
Okay, so we'll definitely pull up WolfBench during the eval so we can compare Mistral Small. But shout out to Mistral for this release. It's been a minute since they released anything open source for us, and then we're happy to see them improving. We also in open source have the original Mamba. Mamba is kind of the original SSM, or one of the original SSM. I think RWKV was also like around the same time. But SSM is state space models, basically an alternative of sorts of transformer-based architecture. And Mamba from the folks at Together is Mamba 3 is the new release. I don't know if there's tons that we can talk about this, but we can talk about their architecture for sure. This is also in open source. H Company, the elusive H Company. We've mentioned H Company. All I know about H Company is they're French. They had H Runner. They had multiple H-related things. Now they're releasing a model called Holotron 12B. It's an open source, also hybrid SSM. Looks like many folks are moving into the hybrid world for longer context and lower performance. The numbers here don't make sense.
Higher performance.
Listen, go ahead.
No. It's a lower performance. They just get much higher performance on. It doesn't slow down.
Yeah, sorry, I meant lower utilization. Yeah, higher performance, lower utilization. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Thanks for picking it up. The description that I have here is H Company releases Holotron 12B, an open source hybrid SSM model for computer use agents that hits 8.9 thousand tokens per second and jumps Web Voyager from 35% to 80%. 8.9 thousand tokens per second sounds to me just ridiculous. So I need to figure out where this number is from and whether or not I have a bug in my research, because the highest that we've seen is 15,000 tokens per second, but that was a chip that was burned the weights into. LDJ?
Yeah, that 8.9 thousand tokens per second figure, I'm looking at the blog post now, and they're just referring to total throughput there. So when you have a batch with basically multiple streams happening at once on a certain hardware, the old model could do about 5,000 tokens per second in total throughput, and this new one can do about 8.9 thousand. But that's multiple streams running at the same time.
Okay, so this is very misleading, actually.
It is misleading.
Yeah, that's not cool.
So that's not what we're gonna get.
How do you convert it? Anyway, that's the TLDR.
Yeah, anybody can do that.
Okay. Yeah. So let's move on. H Company, a little bit of a misleading thing. Hugging Face released their State of the AI Spring open source report, showing 2 million models and China dominating 41% of all downloads. So that's great. Our friends at Unsloth, we've been covering Unsloth for a minute now. They have one of the coolest quantizations in the world. They quantize basically every model. They have multiple things. They have now launched a Astral as Unsloth Studio. It's a web UI for local LLM serving and training and inference, significantly improving the speed. So shout out to Unsloth. I invited Daniel to chat about this on the show, but all of them are busy running around GTC, so it's kind of hard to get guests now. But Astral is... sorry, I keep saying Astral is the next thing. Unsloth is definitely worth mentioning because we now have another player in running local models and a significantly improved performance. So we're going to mention Unsloth Studio. And last in open source, it's not open source LLM per se, but it's open source news. And we have folks coming in saying, hey, this happened. OpenAI and Astral, which is the company behind RAF, and most importantly, UV, the Python package manager that changed everybody's usage of Python, I think, significantly better, faster, and just great developer tools, have gotten into an agreement. So OpenAI acquires Astral, and the Astral team joins specifically the Codex team, which is great news. Just from today, I believe. I think it's great news, specifically to highlight also. I don't have like a piece of news on this, but I think it was reported that OpenAI stops pursuing side projects and will go after coding and engineering and generative agents through that. And we kind of see it through Codex. OpenAI is significantly investing into the Codex ecosystem and the Codex people. And Codex kind of takes the front lead. I think they're seeing what happens with how fast Anthropic has scaled up their revenue, mostly due to Cloud Code, which is a year and a half old or something. And so OpenAI is definitely joining this after purchasing OpenClaw and now Astral. LJ?
Yeah, to comment on that aspect of focusing on code, I think a big incentive for them to do that too is just the fact that the models are now at a point where them being really good at coding helps accelerate the researchers themselves and their ability to put out that next leap up in capabilities. And that has that feedback loop of then that next generation of models and their coding capabilities affects how well and how fast you could develop. So I think since we're at that inflection point right now and really moving through it, I think that's a big reason why they're deciding to go all in on coding to start ramping up that feedback loop as fast as possible.
Yep. Alrighty. So I think that this is mostly it on the open source angle. Wolfram, Yam, Nista, anything else in open source that we missed?
OpenAI released a challenge. There is a challenge from OpenAI. If you can train a local model very fast, like under very heavy constraint of compute, of time, and so on, and who trains the best model, pretty much. It's a challenge from OpenAI for efficient models.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. I think it counts as open source.
Yeah, it does count as open source.
Yeah, nothing. I mean, I want to say Minimax, but I haven't seen the weights yet. So
not open source.
Yeah, no. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's pretty funny to me that an uncensored model now is on the top of the Hugging Face. And
which one?
It's called How CS. It's a Qwen 3.5 35B fine-tuned. Now it's pretty limited, but there are important uses for these types of models. So in my case, since I'm working on a doctor app and they would like to do transcriptions and stuff, you cannot have any refusals in that. Like it has to be exactly on it. And this is a common problem even for like therapists and stuff. So this is one of those uses. Apart from people just trying to make porn bots, there are good uses for these
uncensored models. Listen, we're still in the TLDR, just a reminder. Before we dive into uncensored models, let's talk about tools in agentic engineering. This is a corner.
Something came to my mind about open source models. There were some new Mamba 2 models that are even Mamba 3, Mamba 2.
Mamba 3 released like Mamba 3 released.
Mamba 3.
Yeah, we mentioned this in the beginning.
Mamba 3. Yeah.
All right, time to move on, folks. In tools in agentic engineering, the corner that we now have to cover because the world is changing, everybody's on agents. This is my update from Nvidia GTC. Jensen, aka the inference king, I don't know if you guys saw this, is often doing 2.5 hour keynotes without a teleprompter. It just like talks off a slide. Jensen, for 10 minutes, talked about OpenClaw, which is insane. It's absolutely insane. Jensen the CEO of Nvidia, the legendary CEO of the biggest company in the world, is talking about how OpenClaw is the most important software open source release since ever, passing Linux, passing React, passing like multiple things in GitHub stars, right? When I say passing, I mean in GitHub stars. Jensen goes as far as to say every company needs an OpenClaw strategy, and then every SaaS company will become a gas company, agentic as a service company. And then they're also releasing NemoClaw, which is kind of a reference to OpenClaw for enterprise platform, citing how bad security-wise OpenClaw is. It's absolutely crazy to see how big this thing have gotten and how huge companies are now following up everybody with their version of that. And I think we're going to continue seeing this, and we should at least cover it. Wolfram?
If you asked me for my favorite of the week, I would say it's NemoClaw, just because what it means. Not exactly that I would be using this now, but what it means that NVIDIA got behind this and give it credibility and have their own version, and security and enterprise is now a focus. I think this is a big thing that will have a lot of effects, how this is happening in companies. Agents are serious now.
Yep. I think if your company doesn't run agents, it should. So following up on kind of the agents area, OpenAI ships subagents for Codex, the ability to spin up agents that don't block the main thread, enable parallel specialized agents with custom configs, which is great for stuff like research, great for testing. If you can like spin up multiple subagents, it's great. I wanted to have Ryan here. We'll chat with Ryan about his use of subagents soon. Speaking of every company becomes an agentic company, Manus, that's been acquired by Meta, launches My Computer desktop app, bringing its AI agents from the cloud to your computer, very closely following whatever Perplexity did. Perplexity also launched computer agents, and Perplexity also launched, or at least announced, I tried to get my hands on it and I couldn't get it, on like local computer. So this ability of OpenClaw to control your Mac or your PC, etc., I think that this is the highlight of the usage for many people. Yes, you could have used agents. Manus has been around for over a year. You can do cron jobs, etc. But like if it browses as you, I think this is the most like important point. I think here in Tools and Agentic Engineering, we also should mention that Chrome released a native way to talk to Chrome, and I've been using that significant success over every other like tool. I think we mentioned this last week, but this is a follow-up from last week that I've been using in OpenClaw, in Cloud Code, in everywhere. It's there's a native way to enable debugging and via Chrome NCP and kind of like the CLI, and so the agents that use this are really, really good at controlling your browser. So basically, there's a trend here that we're seeing in tools and agentic engineering. Every company, including OpenAI and Anthropic, are moving towards, hey, let's control your computer. Claude now has remote control, so you can control Claude natively via the Claude app. They also released it this week. There's tons of releases from your phone, so you can like launch it. You still have to have your laptop open. But I think everybody's moving this. I think many people who are afraid of OpenClaw and its security approach vulnerabilities will definitely gravitate towards a company that makes this secure. And Nvidia stepping into this, and then Manus launching this in Perplexity is just a sign of things to come, I think. Folks, in this week's Buzz, I want to tell you something to the listeners of our show who are training models and using 1B. Maybe one of the biggest releases that we've ever had in Weights and Biases history, the biggest requested releases. We launched our iOS mobile app. Tons of people build their own versions on top of our APIs. And now we have an iOS mobile app to monitor AI training runs when you're on a date, when you're on the beach, when at 2 a.m., when you're in a pub. You can performatively monitor your spikes and losses and loss rates from a mobile iOS app. And we had some very, very good feedback about this, so we'll mention that. And then WolfBench. Wolfram, you want to do a TLDR for WolfBench, what we're going to cover in this week's Buzz?
So we will be looking at the new models. I updated the site just now, so we will look at it together. afterwards, and I found something interesting. What happens if you change the thinking level of GPT 5.4 compared to Opus? Why does one model get smarter and the other gets dumber if it thinks more? That we will also take a look at. A quick look.
So we have a very slow TLDR. I'm looking at the time. It's already like 30 minutes till the start of the show. So I'm also speaking slower and maybe thinking slower right now because I'm sick. But the last thing on TLDR is voice and audio. Grok launched Grok text-to-speech API with 5 voices. And then also from last week, we didn't get to cover fish audio, but I used it this week. And it's so cool. Here's how I used it. I went to see Hail Mary, Project Hail Mary. I got in love with the character there. I'm not going to spoil it to anyone, but definitely go see the movie or listen to the audiobook. I came back home. I was like, I want to continue being in this universe. So I used Fish Audio to create that character, to clone that voice, create that character, put it in NemoClaw as a skill, and now I have that character. And I used the Fish Audio for this, and the cloned voice is really, really good and really emotional as well with expressive controls. So Grok is the kind of the closed source version of this. Fish Audio is the open source version of these. Folks, I think this is it with TLDR. Let's start with open source. It's been a while since we like kicked off the show with open source. I think it's a good start of this week. Also, we have a transition. Open source AI, let's get it started. Alrighty, in open source, I think Mistral is what we want to cover the most. What do you guys think? I think Mistral.
Sure, might as well start with it at least.
Yeah, LDJ, you wanna kick us off?
Yeah, sure. So Mistral released I think this is the first model released in their 4th generation called the Mistral 4 series. People were making some jokes because it's called small, but it's 120 billion parameters basically. But we have 6 billion parameters active per token, 120 billion total. For reference, if you at least compress this, you would kind of be able to squeeze this into roughly like an H100 GPU, definitely into the newer Blackwell series GPUs. And yeah, it's I believe it's sparser for sure, especially compared to their original MOE's mixture of expert models that they released. It's also multimodal, as mentioned here. They took the benefits of their Mistral model that was kind of a dedicated vision model prior, and it seems like they have a lot of those benefits here as well. And does anybody else have comments or things to add?
I think it's pretty cool that like Mistral and the Magistral reasoning and the DevStral coding are now unified. We've seen this trend from other companies, notably OpenAI. For the longest time, have been training a side coding model and then kind of like rolled that learnings into the bigger generic model, right? We've seen this with GPT 5.3 Codex and then 5.4. And then it looks like Mistral has been going on the side quest with Mistral, with DevStral, with Magistral for thinking. And now they're just like, okay, stop with the funny names that, that have anything to do with Mistral. Let's just roll this into one. They have a reasoning effort parameter like everybody else. We kind of come to expect this from none for fast responses to high for like step-by-step thinking. Apache 2 license, I believe. And let's look at some of the benchmarks. So we have a comparison of Mistral only for Mistral themselves, but we also have Mistral in WolfBench, I believe. So we can pull this up. Wolfram, if you want to like prepare this, we can do that too. So Mistral Small 4, which is really funny again, is on GPK Diamond beating the previous versions of Mistral without reasoning and with reasoning. With reasoning, it gets 71% on GPK Diamond, 78% of the MMLU Pro. I'm not seeing any coding benchmarks here necessarily. I see IfBench and Arena Hard and MMMU Pro multimodal, which is great. But we want to compare Mistral to like other models. Look, folks, we're not expecting Mistral to be the frontier lab at this point. Like it's an open source model, 120B. What we are interested in is comparing it to some like a Nemotron 120B or the OpenAI GPT OSS from last year that's around this size as well. Yeah, Wolfram, let's take a look at Mistral.
Okay, let's take a look at what the WolfBench showed. And the thing is, they called it small, but it is a big model with the total parameters, but it has just a few. And the thing is, it appears far to the right on my list of models I've tested so far. So it's actually the worst model in my list currently, with a score about 17% on average in the OpenClaw agent.
I think it's important, just before we talk about the scores themselves, what is WolfBench measuring specifically? I think it's important to remind folks because some are new, some haven't followed with us.
So what I'm using is the Terminal Bench 2.0 agentic model benchmark. It's like a coding benchmark, but it's more agentic use, like configure a Git server or even train a model, stuff like that. So these are agentic tasks, 89 of them, and the model has to do it within a sandbox, basically. So it gets a sandbox, it gets its to-do, and it goes ahead and does it. And the Terminus 2 agent is the default agent of the evaluation framework. And I also added the OpenClaw agent because I was very interested to see how does an actual agent that you use in practice perform with the model instead of just the testing model. And what we are seeing, what this benchmark shows, there are different values. I'm looking at what the average score is, what every benchmark reports. You usually have 5 runs, for instance, of this benchmark, and it's being reported as 1 score. But I'm also looking at how many of the tasks in total can the model do, and how many tasks does it reliably. In all the benchmark runs I did, how many times did it complete the task? So we have I can zoom in a bit to the right to show you exactly what this means.
Yeah, that's great.
Basically, here the scores are pretty close because I only did 2 or 3 runs. I didn't have time for more. It's still running. So I will update it later. But if you look at another model like here, GLM5 Turbo or GLM5, you see the yellow score. We have a yellow score. That is the average score. That is what every other benchmark reports. You see the average score, and they are compared across a number of runs. But you also see that even if it only got a 47% in this case, it could achieve 70% of all the tasks it has been able to do in at least one of the runs. Not every time together, otherwise the average would be higher, but this is what the ceiling is, what it could achieve in perfect circumstances.
So Mistral is not as performant, is what I'm hearing from you. I need a TLDR, Wolfram. We can go deep into the
it's been the worst model here, but it is a small model, and I've been comparing it to some of the really ZOTA models. Yeah. And I only have 2 to 3 runs, but what I've seen so far is a bit disappointing for this. But I, of course, have to add other open source models that will make the perspective change a bit.
Yeah. So you do have Nemotron in here, which is the same size-ish, right? So how does this compare to Nemotron?
Yeah, Nemotron is actually a lot better in the Terminal Bench benchmark. In the OpenClaw, it also did not much better. So it had 20% compared to 17. So I think they are on par, even if they look very different. About plus minus 5% is always still variance you have.
Yeah.
But we will look at it later. But the new Minimax M2.7, that is a very different deal. We can look at it now or later. But this is really a strong model.
Yeah, okay, we'll get there. So let's finish up with Mistral, folks. Anything else to say about Mistral's models while we kind of like add the evaluations here?
Apache 2, that's a big thing.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
I just wanted to say the license, so definitely appreciated that it is Apache 2.
Yeah. Mistral also released Leanstral, which is a spin-off. I think it's the same model fine-tuned for lean proving, like mathematical proofs. And it's pretty crazy for its size. It stands nicely right behind Opus on state-of-the-art. And, it's a small-ish model that you can run. I don't want to say at home, but kind of at home if you really want to. And that's pretty crazy. It's released, I think, under Apache 2. Let me just check. And
so you're talking about an additional model that they released called Leanstral for lean proofs for mathematics.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's pretty much the first one that we see, I think, ever for, the first substantial one that we see for directly for mathematical proofs.
So
from,
definitely
one
shout
of the
out
leading players.
shout out to Mistral for a week of open source. I think a lot of related to GTC, they're on there. The CEO Arthur Mensch was on GTC, talking about their model. So they coincided some releases with GTC. Some folks have to use Mistral because they're European, and kudos on them. We haven't seen Mistral leading in open source for a minute, but we definitely commend the fact that it's Apache 2 and it's open source, and we would wish for Mistral to continue releasing models. All right, folks. The next thing I want to cover in open source is Onslaught's open source studio web UI. Have you guys seen this? Have you gotten into this? Onslaught as a company is a very interesting company. They have quantization reports. They've been quantizing or making bigger models smaller and easier to run. And so now I think they came out with a holistic solution for just a web UI for doing local training and inference, which I think is very interesting. Inference also. And let's see, they are saying that they can speed up the speed of 2x faster speed with 70% less RAM, which I think is very important, with zero accuracy loss. They support up to 500 models with LoRa training, text, vision, audio models, embeddings as well. Self-healing tool calling is supported there as well. And I think, again, this also coincides with NVIDIA. This supports the NVIDIA Data Designer and NVIDIA RTX series of GPUs. Yeah, I think this is great. The thing that I think Julien Chaumont from Hugging Face posted about Onslaught's model is that it trains on A100 via Colab Pro. So if you have Google Colab, you can train models with Onslaught Onslaught Studio. So go ahead.
I think it's a bit of a bigger deal than most people think, because up until now, if you wanted people to train something on their own hardware, it would always be either they open a Docker so you can go in and help them, or they just get whatever's available on whatever's available on Google Colab. So there was no LM Studio. You know how LM Studio made inference available to everybody?
Yep.
I think this might end up blowing up later on. Yeah.
I think we definitely need to get the Onslaught folks here to talk about what this actually means. But yeah, this is, folks, essentially this makes training LLMs easier, fine-tuning LLMs easier. Folks are fine-tuning things overnight on Colab Pro, which is not that it was $20 a month, I think, Colab Pro. Not entirely sure, but this adds ease of use to fine-tuning. LDJ, any comments on Onslaught Studio or Onslaught in general?
Yeah, I was just going to clarify that a lot of the performance benefits and training that you're describing, those have been existing for a while with Onslaught, and for that reason, Onslaught has been kind of popular. But the main new thing here is the fact that they have the Studio interface, where it's basically a no-code or low-code interface, and more beginners would probably find this a lot more useful compared to the other tools for fine-tuning that they would find available.
Yep, 100%. So shout out to Onslaught. We'll try to get Daniel and the folks here on the show to talk about Onslaught. They're just very busy with GTC, but generally they were interested. Folks, I think one more open source, and then we'll have to move on because a bunch of stuff to talk about. What is the other thing you guys want to talk about? Holotron, you mean? NemoTron, we covered last week.
Oh yeah, well no, the NemoTron Super.
Yep, but we chatted about this last week. What is the news about NemoTron Super?
Didn't it? Sorry, maybe I'm confusing things, but this week, just like in the past couple days, didn't the new NemoTron Super that's 120 billion parameters come out, or was this really last week? Maybe I really forgot it. Okay,
yeah.
got it.
Last week. That's all right, dude. There's too many releases, but yeah, Neutron 120B came out last week. We kind of covered this on the show with Chris. So I think that this is pretty much it on open source. Let's mention the Holotron 12B, the H company one. Inference throughput with multimodal agent workload. So Holotron, I think the highlight of H company, as far as I remember them, we covered them a couple of times. I never use their models, like, to be very honest. They are focusing on the Web Voyager benchmark. They're always claiming that they're the best at computer use and web use. This model, the 12B model, now says it's an open source hybrid SSM for computer use agents. When together with Nvidia, as you guys see, during GTC, everybody releases something with Nvidia, and they have to focus on one benchmark that's going to stand them out in the crowd. And so Web Voyager benchmark is the one that they're highlighting here, with Holotron 12B getting 80%. What is interesting here? The previous model, Holo 2 8B, plateaued at 5,000 tokens per second. Again, these are batched. LDJ, you want to describe like how they're getting these numbers?
So this is at a batch size of 100, just basically meaning that they're having 100 instances of basically 100 streams happening at once. And I think what is impressive though here, that it's on average about 89 tokens per second per stream, and 100 of those streams all happening concurrently on one single H100.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it is pretty impressive, I think, even when you put it like that, and that's nearly double what the 8B model was able to do, which is also 50% smaller in weights, and it's still about 2 times faster than that.
Yeah. So I think maybe the comparison that I have, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, is how Grok 420 kind of picks up 4 agents, or in the heavy version of theirs, they spin up, like, I think up to 10 that do web search, and they kind of like summarize all the web searches from all the agents. This is kind of that. This is like a fan out, like super quick search. 8,000 tokens per second across all of them is still very impressive if you can read through all of these web results, web Voyager. So this is specific.
Sorry, I was going to specify. I think they're not saying that it's like a multi-agent system where they're interacting with each other. Just saying for cost efficiency purposes, if you were a cloud provider or WANDB or CoreWeave, that you're wanting to deploy this and run it for many people, you could do that efficiently and have very large batches like this while not using much compute.
Yep. Interesting. Okay, so that's not the way that I understood, but thank you for the clarification. Probably didn't read all the way through. Okay, so this is Holotron, and they did release this open source. Folks can run this model. Let's talk about this one. It's kind of open source. It's going to move us to the bigger companies. Would love to hear from you guys. Astral, the company behind Rough, and most importantly, UV, the Python package manager that changed pretty much everyone who uses Python, I think, loves UV. Absolutely. It's significantly better than PIP for package management. Astral is huge in open source and now is joining OpenAI. OpenAI announced today that they're entered into agreement to acquire Astral. This is a very interesting thing that Anthropic doubles down on TypeScript with the Bun acquisition, and OpenAI doubles down on Python with the UV kind of like ecosystem acquisition with Astral. What can we talk about here, folks? What is interesting here? Jan, would love to hear from you on this topic.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's quite different than Anthropic's acquisition. What we see here is basically unlocking Python. You can say, I think, static analysis for Codex while it writes code. You know, the more you can do automatically, like you have for that you have for JavaScript, all these AST plugins that try to extract before you write the code, try to extract presumably what might be bugs that you need to be informed, and then spin up warnings, or like immediately detect errors before you compile the code and so on. this toolset basically allows you to do that for Python. That's pretty much the best we have for Python. Rough is built exactly for that. Rough is a tool for Python and basically allows you to do exactly what I said. And it's a major acquisition from OpenAI. Definitely pretty obvious where is this going to fit. And Bun is a little bit different because the tools are written in TypeScript. To the best of my knowledge, Codex as well, or maybe Rust. It doesn't matter. Cloud code is written in TypeScript for sure, and Bun is the engine that runs it. You can see where from the evolution of Bun just after the acquisition, you can see that an infrastructure is being built that now is very conveniently supporting features of Cloud Code into Bun. So it's a little bit different. It's one of them is tools for the code that the agent runs, and the other is a tool for the agent itself, the engine itself.
I think
cool.
It's a tool for the agent itself, but also we must remember that both folks on the Bun ecosystem and the UV ecosystem are fairly new to the ecosystems. Like Bun and UV are not like all the technologies like PIP, and those are great devs. OpenAI and Anthropic is going after the best developers in the world to strengthen their like offerings. Right, so the Charlie Marsh and the folks from Astral are absolutely have taken the world of Python by storm. Python is like it's been around for a while. It's optimized, and they have been able to squeeze even more optimization from this ecosystem. So I think both companies acquiring great engineers to support both the cloud code kind of things, and specifically they mentioned that the OpenAI, the Astral folks are joining Codex in OpenAI. They don't just join OpenAI. They're joining Codex in OpenAI. They're putting the focus specifically on, hey, we're taking great engineers, we're putting them where it matters for performance, where it matters for what types of tasks these models do. I think that's the highlight for me, that like both these companies are now on an acquisition spree to strengthen the developer ecosystem, but also open source. This must be said. This is the third acquisition from OpenAI in the past month, and OpenClaw, they have left a commitment to open source with OpenClaw, and now with Astral, they're focusing on open source support. I think it's great. I think it's very similar. So the community is divided here. Some folks who don't like OpenAI, for them now OpenAI's involvement in UV is like a bad thing. The comparative thing to me was Vercel and Next.js, and how strongly Vercel is like supporting that ecosystem. Some folks don't like Vercel, so the affiliation they don't love, but it's without a doubt a great thing for the ecosystem that a company like this is behind a project like UV right now. Yep. And Google has been at this for the longest time, and it's great to see companies like Anthropic and OpenAI now step in and support full open source. Incredible pushes. Do you guys use UV, by the way? Anybody here who's on Python?
You should use it, especially if you have to do CUDA, because it's a lot faster. It's also safer. I use UV all the time, but I don't like myself that both OpenAI and Anthropic are taking basically full control of the entire major most used software ecosystem. Like I'm not a fan of this either.
Tell us why.
Well, these are the main tools that you use, and there's not a whole lot of them. I mean, you can always make more, but it takes a while to develop trust in a tool that you're going to use every day. And there's very few of them, and now it's just one or two companies just taking full control, and that's not how things were before. It was like usually the tool maker took responsibility of it, but yeah, because then I don't know what kind of telemetry or something they can put on in there. So yeah, there's that.
It's just a general like displeased with for-profit companies, because Bun needs to make money to stay alive, right? Like Astral needs to make money to stay alive.
Yeah, I just want to say that on the other side, you have open source developers earning a lot for their work. It's the first time that you see like these amounts thrown at open source developers. I mean, I think it's a positive thing. Yeah. Look, no, not like it's gonna be like only a handful of open source developers that ever gonna be acquired in this way for sure. But it does, I don't know, it does change the landscape. Like it's a possibility now, and I don't know. I think it's a positive thing. I get what you're saying, but it's again, I mean, the project is open source. You can just look at the code if you want to see what it does.
Look at the code and fork. Like at some point, if the community doesn't like how OpenAI is kind of managing this, there could be a UV fork, and then people can spin this up. We saw this with VS Code, and then Cursor and Windsurf, and like we see forks of open source projects getting supported and like building features. So this is possible. Wolfram, you want to add your comments here?
Just remembering when Microsoft acquired GitHub, there was also a big movement away from it, but in the end, everybody got there. So the question is, how will they handle the project? The good thing is that it's open source. So like you said, it can be forked. And that is a good thing about open source. So they can just close it down and take it away.
Yep. Alrighty, folks. I think we've covered the open source. We kind of like moving towards the big companies now with Astral being acquired by OpenAI. The other things that we didn't cover, Hugging Face released this spring of state of open source report that says that China is dominating 41% of downloads. Let me just run through kind of like this guy for you. But this is like specific Hugging. No, this is not it. The specific Hugging Face stuff. That we don't have time to cover fully. Just why am I not? Give me a second, please. They have 41% of downloads are now from China on Hugging Face, and then 2 million plus models generally for Hugging Face, 11 million users, and the Chinese LLMs are taking over like 100%. So they say it's the first time that China surpasses US in the number of LLMs, but I feel like that's been true for a while. Alibaba Qwen got 1 billion plus downloads across their Qwen models, which is incredible. 1 million downloads per day for Qwen models, and then it overtook Llama as number one. So imagine how for how long Llama was relevant on Hugging Face. That only now, after all this time, Alibaba took over. Speaking of Alibaba, we are still awaiting news on how and where will the models get released. But this is a spring of open source. Very interesting to read if folks are interested in the open source ecosystem. All right, folks, I think it's time for us to move to, we've been an hour and something on the air. So I think it's time for us to move to this week's buzz. We're going to do it fairly quick, and then we're going to move towards big companies and agentic engineering tools. Let's do this week's buzz. Welcome to this week's Buzz, a corner of ThursdAI where we talk about our only sponsor, our home, weights and biases from CoreWeave. And this week, I'm going to add Wolfram here. This week we have some news. I want to keep the other folks here in case you were interested as well. If you're training models, obviously I think it's obvious. Weights and biases 1B is the best tool to look at the training of those models. And many people for the longest time asked us when iOS app, because they want to keep monitoring their systems. They want to keep monitoring their loss curves. And I'm very happy to announce, I'm actually going to do applause here. Very, very happy to announce that our iOS app is now live on the App Store. And it looks, well, the same way that you would expect weights and biases to look. It has run overviews. It has all your runs. You can do it from wherever. It's the most requested feature that we've ever had. The highlight there is we have native notifications for alerts. So if something goes bad with your run, you can get a native notification from the Weights and Biases app. The community was very appreciative of this release. And so if you are training any models, if you're fine-tuning models using 1B, I'm very excited for you to try this. Please give us feedback. Folks, please, it's very important. Give us feedback for the iOS app. We'll rush and implement this as fast as possible. The folks are the new iOS team is kind of like looking forward to improve this for you as much as possible. So shout out, you can get this app on 1B on the App Store. Also, we have links for in the show notes as well. So huge shout out to the team for this release. It's been a while. We did a bunch of releases. It's the cake, so I wanted to focus on this one. In the other news from 1B, we wanted to talk about WolfBench a little bit, specifically this finding. Wolfram, you want to take this? You want to take this one?
Yeah, I will share my screen so we can look at it live.
Yeah.
Just, am I still sharing? Yeah, I'm still sharing the screen.
Yeah, you're here.
Okay, great. So you can see it. I will just, the cool thing about the WolfBench website is you can build your own charts, basically. What I'm doing is I'm removing all the models, and we will just be looking at Opus and GPT 5.4. And so I can zoom in a little bit more. Usually I use default settings because I want to see what the model does in the harness if you don't configure it. I also do some optimized settings if the model makers gave the information. So what I did is I ran Opus and GPT 5.4 models with different agents. The T2 is the Terminus 2 agent, which is the default agent of the terminal benchmarking framework. And I also used Claude Opus. And the funny thing is that I used Claude Code as the agent with Claude Opus and GPT 5.4 by just setting some environment variables so I could use GPT 5.4 within the Claude Code framework. And I used both models inside the NemoClaw framework, agent framework as well, so which I added to the terminal bench so I could test it. And now the interesting thing is if you use the default setting in NemoClaw, the default is low thinking. For entropic models, it's adaptive thinking, so it changes the level depending on the task. But you can also manually set a higher level, and the highest level on Opus is max. That is a specific max effort setting where it has a maximum reasoning effort. And it thinks a lot longer, generates more thinking tokens. It's the same thing as the extra high setting for GPT 5.4. And I used both settings, and the interesting thing is what happened with GPT 5.4 is exactly as you would expect. The default, you got 44% on average, and it could solve 61% of the tasks in all the 5 runs. But when I went to extra high, it went a lot higher and did much better. The same happened when you use NemoClaw. This little bar here is when they had a bug in version 3.1. It was fixed in 3.11, where the API was used better, the responses API. And it was a big jump to 61% on average. 76% of all the tasks could be solved. But with extra high, it got to 71. It was a jump of 10% points, and it could solve 85% of all the tasks. So
basically, this is showing the standard kind of test time compute paradigm trajectory that we saw that they announced when they announced test time compute and reasoning models. The more reasoning you use, the better. You know, at least in GPT 5.4, the extra high gets you better results. Yeah.
Yeah, that is as expected. And the super surprising thing, the one thing what was a bit surprising was that in Claude Code, if you use Claude Code with GPT 5.4 and you go to extra high, it got a little bit worse. Yeah, so it wasn't doing as well. That is a different harness. The model has not been trained for this harness, so that is some effect you can see here. But the most interesting thing was that if you use Claude Opus 4.6 and you raise it to the maximum level where it's really expensive to run as well, I got much worse results, like from 71% on Terminal Bench 2.0 with the standard Terminus 2, 71% down to 59%. And it lost 10% of all the tasks it could do in 5 runs. So it's not just 1 or 2 runs. It was 5 runs. And the tasks it could always do, they have also regressed.
So again, Opus 4.6 on extra high is actually performing worse on this benchmark. This is
that is not intuitive.
Not intuitive at all, no.
You wouldn't expect, but the thing is, what does Max do? I looked into the traces, and I will post a report on our blog about this because I really looked into it. And the thing is, it has been thinking much more, and that means it has less time to actually act. And Terminal Bench is an agentic benchmark. It is not a reasoning benchmark per se, so it has to act. It has, if it thinks 10 minutes about what to do in the console, and then it goes and gives in the command, and the command doesn't exist, it gets an error message. And it thinks 10 minutes, how can I do this? While another, not as fast, not as smart model, which just acts, it goes, command not found. Okay, I try another one. Command not found. I try this. Okay, and install it. Bam, and it goes through the benchmark much quicker. So I gave it 1 hour. Each of the tasks had 1 hour, but I had less success with the max setting because it was overthinking. It took too long. It didn't act enough. And sometimes it even overcomplicated things. So I will post a detailed report about what happened here. But it has been across all the harnesses in Claude Codes, the same as in OpenClaw. It wasn't as pronounced, actually. The OpenClaw, it didn't make much of a difference. But it has been noticeable that if it is thinking too long, it's not as good for an agentic benchmark, which we had seen before when the Sonnet model actually did very, very well on the agentic benchmarks. Even in some benchmarks that others did, it was better than Opus because it was acting faster. And
so I think, yeah, Wolfram, I think it's counterintuitive, but it's definitely worth calling out that the model can overthink, and for real world use for these models is probably biased towards action is more important than overthinking and then like trying once in the a lot of time. I kind of challenged you back when you showed me this and said, hey, what does it matter? Why not just like wait? And you were right to say the faster the iteration speed is, the faster the model can understand that like the command line is correct or not correct. The tool, CLI tool responded correctly, etc. So like speed is actually of importance here, and overthinking leads. So this is why we have the time caps on the terminal bench stuff.
Yeah.
This is great.
Otherwise, it could get in a loop and run all the time. And it's money. This is pure money. If you use the max, it generates a lot of tokens that lead nowhere. So if you think, oh, I want the maximum performance, so I will use the max level, then you are wasting money. So this is something to keep in mind. Think about what you need the reasoning for. And Entropic themselves on their page where they explain the effort levels, they also say that the normal high level is great for agentic use, while the max level, they specifically say for reasoning tasks, not agentic tasks.
Yeah. So this is just to say to folks, Wolfram, thank you so much for this coverage, by the way. This is the outcome of having evals running all the time. Wolfram has a bunch of insights, folks, so please follow WolfBench on socials as well. We'll like discover these insights. This is just to say that like the folks who default to the extra everything, extra high, whatever, they're not necessarily getting better served, and we should mention this, and they should like consider whether or not they actually need this like super high reasoning for the stuff that they want to do. Wolfram, the thing that I wanted for us to cover also super quick is that WolfBench enabled us to tell you a good story that we saw that fixed. So any of you who tried GPT 5.4 since it's released 2 weeks ago inside OpenClaw, you may have been very, very disappointed with its performance. And we actually saw this on WolfBench. The OpenClaw version 2026 3.1, so March 1st of OpenClaw, performed really bad with only 7% of all tasks being achieved. So 7% baseline on this benchmark with GPT 5.4, the best agentic model that OpenAI ever released inside the OpenClaw harness. Really, really bad. This is after OpenAI announced acquisition of OpenClaw. Their top model performed really bad. We saw this.
10 runs because it was so surprising. I thought something may be wrong with the benchmark. I need more results. Maybe it was just really bad luck. But even the 10 runs, as we see on your screen, it was terrible.
It was terrible. So again, OpenAI bought OpenClaw, and the best model that they ever released since ever performed abysmally. Apparently, this was a bug. And so it looks like Peter Steinberger and the team worked on this, and you guys can see this on this chart. So on the left here, this is the OpenClaw. It gets 60% at the highest possible level, but look at this floor. The floor is just abysmal. 7% are always solved of the task. So variability is crazy. Apparently, this was a bug with GPT 5.4 WebSocket, something refusing. Peter Steinberger posted about this, and then we've confirmed after the fix. You can see the confirmation. The third bar here on the right gets 52% floor versus 7%
second,
floor.
Actually, Alex, the second.
Second one, the 45 one.
Extra high. But by changing the version, that was the only change. I changed the OpenClaw version and used the responses API that was now fully supported.
Yeah, well, you changed the version, but they fixed the WebSocket refusal stuff or something, and then they worked. This is the benefit of a company like OpenAI getting involved in OpenClaw, and then it gets 45% as the baseline and 76% overall. So the jump overall is still big, but the baseline is incredible. So basically, GPT 5.4 was very bad at OpenClaw, and now it isn't. And if you have tried GPT 5.4 in OpenClaw and it was bad for you and switched back, maybe it's time to try again. Yam, question?
What is the difference in the answers? Like, you tried both. Like, you probably saw the difference between them. What's the difference? I mean, do you have an insight about what exactly were the mistakes?
Yeah, I would have to go at the details.
Oh, Wolfgang, we're getting feedback. Oh, feedback. Myself as well. I think it's you. Yeah, Wolfgang, go ahead.
Yeah, so there are a lot of loops and where the model wasn't really acting. It said it wanted to do something, but it wasn't doing anything like that, and just going in loops and not really doing anything. So it didn't look like it was really dumb, but like something was wrong with it.
Yeah.
That wasn't.
All right, folks. It's time for us to move on. This was Wolfram. Thank you so much, folks. Everything that we talked about, you can find on WolfBench.ai and follow this on socials.
An important thing, if you want to know, you just click on the bars and it takes you to Weave, where I have all the traces logged into our systems. So you can actually go through and look at each of these. We can do it quickly if we want to show Weave.
Yes, if you want to show, yeah. So Yam, that's a great question. When because Weights and Biases has Weave for observability, Wolfram now implemented Weave inside WolfBench. So now you can see the actual traces if you want to do it. You want to show us?
Is that my screen or your screen?
Yeah, your screen.
Okay. Here it is. Yeah. So basically, if you want to know why this is so bad, just click on it. It opens a new tab on my screen. That is the thing. I'm only sharing this tab. Wait, I will just copy it over in the other tab so you can see it. I hope this works. Yeah, if you click on one of the bars, it basically takes you to the leaderboard view in Weave, and then you see all the runs. And then you can take at each particular run and check out the different calls that are happening. You can see all the traces over here, and then you can filter and find the one you are interested in.
So if anybody else has a question like Yam, whether or not this, what is the difference in actual things, this is how we can know. Interesting. Wolfram, thank you so much, folks. We need to move on because we have breaking news, which is great. We haven't had breaking news for a while. Let's go. AI breaking news coming at you only on ThursdAI. All right, folks, the breaking news for today is that Cursor is releasing an update to their Composer model called Composer 2. LDJ, you want to take us through it while I kind of pull this up?
Yeah, sure. Sure. So here we have Composer 2, and it...
Oh, got muted? Yeah, LDJ got muted.
Oh, okay, there we go. Yes, so
Can
Composer 2...
Can you start again? Yeah. Getting muted again? What's going on?
Huh, yeah, it seems like it keeps muting somehow on StreamYard.
Okay, looks good now, I think.
I think hopefully
Okay.
it stays like this, yeah. So Composer 2 is a new model from Cursor. It's an update from their previously released model called Composer 1.5, and this is the first of their released models that I think it seems actually at parity, not just in their own benchmark called Cursor Bench, but also in Terminal Bench and others, that is actually competing. It looks like with Opus 4.6, with GPT 5.4 that just released very recently. And it's also significantly cheaper still, while also being even faster than the fast mode of Claude 4.6 Opus. So we're talking, I think, over 300 tokens per second. They didn't specify exactly, but I'm just guessing from how much faster they showed on the charts it is compared to Opus 4.6 fast mode and how fast we know that is. So I guess if we want to go individually piece by piece here, like Alex is highlighting on the screen.
So let's talk about the pricing. 50 cents per 1 million tokens. Go ahead, LG. Yours.
Yeah, it's just insane. 50 cents per million tokens for input, $2.50 per million tokens on output. That's even more affordable than 4.6 Sonnet. And I think that
is this 10 times as cheap as Opus, right? Opus is $5 or like 4.5 or something.
Yeah, something like that. I think this is even around the price of GPT 5.4 Mini. I'm actually going to check on that real quick.
Yeah, which we also should mention after this, but yeah. $2.50 per 1 million output tokens. Optimal combination intelligence at cost. So this is a cursor bench. We're looking at the evals of cursor bench, where Composer 2 sits on the significantly lower cost, even lower than GPT 5.4 on the low setting, but very high performance as well. Let's look at Terminal Bench 2, which is the same Terminal Bench that we are measuring. Wolfram, I would be very interested. I don't know if it's possible to evaluate. I think this. We already have folks that say we'll need to verify with WolfBench. Yes, this is thank you for the shout out. If it's possible, then we'll be able to verify this. We should reach out to Cursor folks to have an API to try. Wolfram, Cursor is a harness, so we should be able to do it via their harness, right? Like we'll be able to verify this.
Yeah, basically, if we can run it in a sandbox headless, we should be able to do this. Yeah, I will look into it.
Cursor has a thing, and we can run this model through them. So 61% of Terminal Bench beating Opus 4.6, folks. This is fairly significant. And the comparison to previous composers, you can see the jumps in training that they had from Composer 1 at 38% on their own bench to Composer 2 at 61%. SweetBench multilingual jump from 56% in Composer 1 to 73% in Composer 2. Yeah. So, LJ, go ahead.
Yeah, so I did just check over at the GPT 5.4 Mini cost, which I think that just announced 1 or 2 days ago itself, and this is actually even lower cost than that by about 50%, or rather 5.4 Mini is about 50% more expensive on both the inputs and outputs than this model. Meanwhile, it seems to even be outperforming Opus 4.6 in some metrics, so really insane here.
So it looks like they also have a fast version, but for their fast version, they're pricing it 3 times as much. So Composer 2 is priced at 50 cents per million tokens. The faster variant with the same intelligence is $1.5 per million tokens and 7.5 per output. So like around 3 times as much in price. It's very interesting, the flip. Do you guys notice the flip? We used to talk about, okay, Gemini 3 Pro and then Gemini 3, like the faster model. The faster is always cheaper. Opus, Haiku is cheaper. GPT and the faster version. But then all these companies started releasing a fast mode for the same model, basically paying for premium token streaming, etc. So now the fast mode is not a fast model, but the fast mode is now more expensive. So again, every company now has a fast mode. Opus has a fast mode with pretty much 2x the price. OpenAI in Codex also has a fast mode, like burns tokens twice as fast. This is the first time that I saw 3 times as much. So Composer 2 from Cursor has a faster variant that has the same amount of intelligence, but the speed is absolutely ridiculous. So you can see the tokens per second, they're over 200 tokens per second. Supposedly they're like putting this on a faster chip or somewhere and routing your tokens there. And it's supposed to be good. So let's fire it up. Let's see if we can play around with this model with Composer 2. While I pull this up, folks, any other comments on this? Folks are in the comments are saying we don't even look at benchmarks anymore because it's too much gamemanship on benchmarks. And yeah, I tend to agree. But we've seen Composer before, and like it's pretty good.
Yeah, and Terminal Bench I feel like has been working pretty well, and also of course the greatest benchmark, WolfBench. So eventually, even though we're not able to have scores for that yet, I'm sure that eventually we'll be able to see some scores for that.
Yeah,
but it's still insane. If you look at Composer 2 Fast here and look at the price compared to all the others, it's still what that looks like still like 5 times or 4 times less cost than Opus 4.6.
So specifically, Opus 4.6 Fast is absolutely incredibly expensive. It's over $150 here. which is yep. Alrighty, folks. This is Cursor. We I don't know if we have time to test something because we have some other news to go to, specifically GPT 5.4 Mini and Nano, as we mentioned this. But this is Composer is breaking news. Shout out to the Cursor team. This is, as far as we saw reports, we don't know, but as far as we saw reports, this is a fine tune. This is not a full pre-train of Composer model. This is either GLM or something. This is the reports that we saw previously. Jan, do you remember any gossip about whether they're training from scratch or if or anybody else?
I assume it's a fine tune. There is no reason to believe it's from scratch. And I'm pretty sure if it was from scratch, you would absolutely know it. They would be shouting it everywhere for sure. And
this is the way to know. If this is a pre-train from scratch, they would tell you.
Yeah, look, they don't have any reason to train from scratch. They are for a business company training a model for a better product, which is, everyone knows what exactly the product is, reducing the cost for them, and hopefully getting better results for us. And seems to be the case with both models.
Alrighty, we move on because we do have to talk about other big company news. So we have OpenAI GPT 5.4 Mini and Nano. Where's my thing? Okay, so GPT 5.4 Mini and Nano. This is what we want to cover. It's kind of like it goes hand to hand with the previous breaking news that we have, because now kind of Composer has a comparative, like, smaller models, but GPT 5.4 was only launched 3 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago, and now OpenAI is launching 2 smaller, faster variants, not with the same intelligence, but smaller and faster variants. So let's look at those. 75 cents for a million tokens, and $4.50 for output tokens for the smaller versions of GPT performance. The Nano is even cheaper than that. But let's look at the performance. I think that the most important thing about to understand about the GPT 5.4 models is that they're not your main driver of like everything, but they're very, very good at some agentic stuff. And I think specifically the highlight for me is OS World verified for the Mini. This is the headline number. OS World, LDJ, you want to mention why OS World is important and what is it used for?
Yeah, so OS World, the OS just literally standing for operating system. And it's just really testing a model's ability to navigate a computer, navigate not just an individual browser, but more broadly the operating system as a whole, navigating between different programs and the visual interface around that, not just using a bunch of scripts to run things within the operating system. So as you can imagine, a lot of those abilities would be required to really do a lot of white collar work reliably. For at least a lot of software where APIs don't exist and you really do need to actually click with a mouse and keyboard around a screen.
Yep.
So here, this is really significant improvement. And actually here, I could bring up OS World scores in the meantime for other models as well while you continue to talk about this.
So the thing that I want to highlight here is that the GPT 5.4 was a very, very strong jump on OS World at 75%. This mini version, the costs significantly less, costs less than $1, 75 cents per million tokens. And it's probably also faster. I haven't tested, but it feels to me that it would be faster. Like, it would make sense. It has nearly matches this. It nearly matches the main model's OS World performance. What this means is you're able to, and folks, browser tasks take quite a lot of tokens to do because they take screenshots, etc. You need a multimodal model to understand. This one, I'm not entirely sure if OS World is text only or screenshot based as well. We can check, but and somebody please correct me. But 72% on OS World is nearly very, very close to 75% on the main model. But for the mini model, it's very impressive. For that price performance and that speed, 72 is very, very impressive. So why this matters is because it's twice as fast as the previous mini from GPT-5 Mini, and you can use this orchestrator pattern in Codex to have a GPT 5.4, the main orchestrator, and have a bunch of mini sub-agents to do multiple tasks, go on multiple tests, and do all kinds of things. So think of it as your agentic engineering kind of like orchestration. If you are able to, let's say, run visual tests, for example, which is the Achilles heel still of all these kind of vibe coding processes. It's the Achilles heel because models often code a website, vibe code a website, and they don't really look at it or they don't test it. Now you can spin up like 7 sub agents with this mini that's not going to cost you too much and fairly fast test out all the examples of everything that happens on your website. I think it's very important. We can also look at terminal bench to mention this. Wolfram, I saw you on mute. Here's the nano versus the old mini. So the nano version is the smallest one. I don't think it's very good at all, but it still outperforms the old mini version. So they always compare backwards. And nano is
similar scores with this. And what you have to realize is they are agentic models, but they are not the same kind of agentic like the bigger models. The bigger models, you give them tasks and they will think about how to do this and they will act. And the smaller models, you have to basically another agent give them the task what to do, not train a model, but install this or click this. So they are a lot easier in what they are doing, but they are much faster and much cheaper. So they are for the sub-agents of your main agent. The main agent will be GPT 5.4, for instance, and it can spawn a lot of sub-agents. Same as Claude Code is doing with using Opus. Even if you select Opus, there are a lot of tasks that are still using Sonnet or even Haiku, like looking at code and getting summaries and stuff like that. This is also something the sub-agents do with smarter, with faster and cheaper models.
Yep. LDJ, go ahead.
Yeah, so for OS World Verified, what's interesting here is actually they do have a human baseline for the benchmark, which is at 72%, which is just being hit now, essentially.
Oh, wow.
And the full 5.4 scores 75%, which is further beyond that 72% human baseline. And Sonnet 4.6 scores 72.5%. So this is basically at the Sonnet 4.6 score. And if you look at overall, they showed about 5 different benchmarks in the 5.4 mini announcement.
Mm-hmm.
And it's beating Sonnet 4.5 in a majority of those benchmarks and nearly at 4.6 level.
So this is I kind of love how fast things move. This is OpenAI's kind of like small model that beats Anthropic's like medium model, and we're gonna get a blow by blow kind of like they're gonna try to beat OS World on Anthropic now next. So folks, definitely I think what Wolfram called out is the most important thing about this. The smallest, like the nano models or the mini models are great for smaller tasks, translation, verification, like all these things. They're not as agentic as the main model, but the orchestrator and sub-agents pattern is how these models should work. So definitely shout out to OpenAI for releasing the mini and nano models in the big company news. All right, what else should we cover, folks? We don't have that much time. But we have a little bit of time in big company and APIs. What else should we cover? I do want to go to the voice and talk about Grok and fish audio afterwards. But yeah, let's talk about Minimax.
Because that has been a very strong model in my test as well. So that is pretty exciting to have another SOTA model or near SOTA.
So let's first do an announcement, Wolfram. Can you tell us what this is? What is the model? What did they release? And yeah, I think you were excited about Minimax too, as well.
So yeah, Minimax. When I thought about what would be my highlight of the week, I said NemoClaw because of what it means. The same can be said about Minimax because it is the first self-evolving model that had built itself, which we talked about in the beginning of the show, how fast progress is, and that the models are now basically helping to improve themselves. And Minimax, Chinese company, dropped M2.7 after just having released M2.5 not long ago, actually, very recently.
M2.5 was open source. M2.7 is not, which is like you need to highlight this. Yeah, not yet.
I hope so. I have heard rumors. We don't cover rumors, but I've heard that it should be open source, so hopefully it will be. Yeah, they did over 100 autonomous optimization loops during the reinforcement learning training and got an internal 30% improvement that the model itself built the agent harness scaffolding. So it basically improved itself in a way. And the numbers are great. WolfBench 56%. Opus 4.6 has 57.3%, so it's very close, just a percent point difference almost.
On
55.
WolfBench Pro, not verified, not the one that like we know that is already obfuscated. On WolfBench Pro, the one that OpenAI is now focusing, this gets nearly Opus 4.6 results within 1 point of frontier, and the model that they highlight, one engineer built over 4 days with 0 lines of human. It's insane, folks. It's insane we're talking about this. 0 lines of human code. We just talked about Karpathy's auto researcher last week. Auto researcher being Karpathy's kind of like approach of giving the agentic model the tests and the goal and having it do a bunch of loops. So this is kind of like that applied to an actual big model. Yam, you wanna like chime in here?
It's more. There is a feedback. It's not just optimizing. I don't know, the best RL experiments. There is a feedback with the people, like iteratively using an optimizer to optimize their own work while they work on it. I mean, that's the first time we see it at this scale. They have a really good blog post about the entire thing, very detailed. I highly recommend reading it. I quote tweeted it because it's just very interesting. I just want to say I tried the model. It is good. It is good. Probably, I don't want to say the best among the open source models because, well, we are waiting for it to be open source. Wink, wink. But let's say that it would be released. It, in my opinion, is the best at the moment. Open weights, allegedly open weights model. It's a step change, in my opinion.
I agree. Fully agree.
Wolfram, can you talk about this? This comes from them, not for us. They say on par in OpenClaw. By the way, like folks are posting this in OpenClaw benchmarks. Great to see this. They say on par with Sonnet 4.6. Wolfram, let me pull up WolfBench and verify this
because go to the website and let's take a look.
Yeah, let's go to WolfBench and take a look. So let's do just OpenClaw, and then we'll take where is this Minimax 2.7? Where are you?
Yeah, you can hide all the ones with the eye on the left, and then just select the one you want to see. So you don't have to...
Just hide everything, and then Minimax and 2.5, and then let's take Sonnet 4.6. So this is within OpenClaw, and you can see that on our test is not exactly matches Sonnet, but it's fairly close on the average. So Sonnet 4.6 on OpenClaw is getting 553 average, and then Minimax 2.7 is getting pretty much the same score as the previous one. Wolfram, how can you explain this? They're saying they're improving.
Very close. So it's just 3 runs instead of 5. So there is some variance still we are not accounting for. What we see is that the baseline, although again it's 3 runs and it did the test in all 3, so not 100% comparable until we have the 5 runs, but it's basically in the same category. Probably why they didn't make it M3. It's M2.7. So some internal changes they did. It's basically what we are seeing is what we got. So it's in the same ballpark, but still a little bit ahead so far. And Minimax M2.5 was already a very, very strong model for OpenClaw usage.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah. So can you turn on the other harnesses as well, so we see the full score? Because we in this we see a much bigger difference in the average, and in the
base.
The base, and of course, like we are comparing just 3 runs against 5 runs, so 2 more, and then it will be a more interesting score.
So shout out to Minimax folks for the model that built itself and autonomous loops. It wrote its own agent scaffolding and hit 56% on WolfBench Pro. Just massive work from the Minimax folks. So shout out to them for this release. Again, we are hoping that this model is going to be open source. It's not as of yet, so this is why we're covering this in the big companies segment. All right, I think it's time for us to move on from Minimax, but definitely a big shout out. Let's talk about GTC and the companies. I think it's very important. Before this, as we mentioned in TLDR, for folks who are joining us just right now, as we mentioned in TLDR, Anthropic made Opus 4.6, but the default with 1 million context window. If you don't have this, just go to Cloud Code and just update Cloud Code. You'll get it. It's very important because Opus is one of the best long context performant models on MRCR, long context benchmark. So I think it's very important. So now the default one is Opus 4.6 with 1 million context window. I'm not showing you this, so I should be showing you this. This is the MRCR performance for Opus 4.6. At 256K, Opus gets 93% of that benchmark. At 1 million K, Opus gets 76 of that benchmarks. I think it's very, very impressive at 1 million tokens. And it's now the default. But I think the last thing that we would like to talk about is, where did I put this? In tools and agentic engineering. Jensen declares total OpenClaw victory. Jensen Huang, the CEO of Nvidia, the biggest company in the world, the digital gold of our time, the thing that powers this whole AI revolution, declares that if your company doesn't have an OpenClaw strategy, and it should, and it says every company in the world today needs to have an OpenClaw strategy. It's surreal to have an open source project that was written by a dude in Austria in December take over the world so fast. Just last week, we told you about how OpenClaw takes over China, and there's like 1,000 people lines standing out the door to like have support in installing OpenClaw. And now the CEO of the biggest company in the world mentions that every company in the world needs an OpenClaw strategy, just like every company in the world needed a mobile strategy when iOS started being a huge thing. Just like every company in the world needed a cloud strategy when the cloud became a thing and SaaS became a thing. Mind blowing. I posted a video about this. It went a little bit viral because people really wanted to see what Jensen is talking about. And Jensen is basically saying, hey, OpenClaw is selling a lot of chips. Yeah, that's great, Kevin. Thank you. There's a comment here that says OpenClaw sells a lot of chips. OpenClaw, as we talked about last week, for the Chinese companies, Tencent, etc., sells a lot of inference. There's automations there. There's heartbeats there. There's different things. It can achieve way more than just a chatbot, so it makes sense. And for Jensen, he absolutely sees this. The more the companies go into agentic, the more inference they need, and the more chips they need. So this makes absolute sense. But also, the fact that they released NemoClaw as a reference implementation of OpenClaw, he mentioned they hired the best security engineers they could pay to go into OpenClaw and actually protect this for enterprises. I think it's a huge deal. For us at CoreWeave, I can tell you the excitement did not pass us, but if you have OpenClaw on your system, your Mac shuts down. Your Mac just like locks up because like you were not allowed to use OpenClaw. It makes sense. Jensen mentioned the system can run and execute code, read internal documents, and communicate externally. Again, he said, read internal documents, run arbitrary code, and communicate externally. These three things are a no-go in enterprise world. You cannot have everybody running this. We also told you like the Chinese government is cracking down on like banks, etc., like folks installing OpenClaw. So Nvidia hired a bunch of security engineers. This is why I'm bullish on OpenClaw even more now than before, and hardened OpenClaw installations for enterprises with something they called OpenShell and a bunch of other features. Wolfram, you looked at NemoClaw. I think this was like the highlight of you. You want to talk about this? What you found interesting about NemoClaw specifically, and Jensen's like highlights of OpenClaw?
I found it super interesting then that he said it is basically like an AI computer. He compared it to a real computer operating system where the agent is your interface and it does the I/O operations and all these things. And that is something I also see in this. It's not just OpenClaw. It could be any agent, but the special thing about OpenClaw is that it is your personal agent with all these capabilities. That is what makes it so powerful. That is what makes it so dangerous. So NVIDIA, seeing this, that everybody wants a personal agent that works for them on their own stuff and helps them at a company level, they need some guardrail, safety, and that is the OpenShell project that they have, where you can use it with other agents as well. You can put it in there and you have policies, and that will be where we are going. So the agent, it's not just a company agent, like many companies already have agents doing stuff, but this is your personal agent, like your personal computer that is for you, and it has to be secured, and it needs a token. That is also something from the keynote where he said data centers are now AI factories, and the tokens are the credits, what every company has to look at. How many credits, how many tokens are they using? And I have never noticed or needed more tokens like now that I'm running OpenClaw and other agents. You really notice it can't be smart enough, cheap enough, and fast enough. You want more, you want it fast. And if it costs $200 a month, I don't care if it is really good and unlimited, basically. Yeah.
So the agentic revolution absolutely exploded the number of tokens that a person can like realistically use, especially when systems like Synchrony that Ryan Carson, our co-host, like uses. Folks are reporting billion tokens. Ryan last week said like he used the billion tokens that day with multiple sub agents. This is only possible if you have an agent that runs other agents that has sub token. Like it's not possible to sit in front of a chatbot and get out of it 1 billion tokens per day. It's not possible. So Jensen absolutely sees how if he pushes the world towards agentic, everybody else is going to continue buying GPUs because inference is now the thing. We told you. And again, for how to say, weights and biases is part of CoreWeave, so we have that kind of like thing to mention. But we told you even before, inference is going to be everywhere. With agentic, inference is going to be everywhere. The folks who are thinking of AI as a bubble, they just don't understand. I think Jensen also mentioned that the projection still like 2027 is $1 trillion in revenue, some ridiculous number like this that makes no sense, but it also makes sense. So yeah, you're shaking your head a lot. What's your NemoClaw outlook? Does every company in the world need a OpenClaw strategy? Is this the new computer? What do you think?
Look, I don't know about an OpenClaw strategy, but at the end, what you're doing is training models on human experience. You can say to I don't know, have capabilities that humans can do, and then you set them up to the wild, and they use these capabilities instead of humans actually doing them. So if you can run them 24/7. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can call it OpenClaw and you can call it in whatever name that you want, but agents that are running 24/7s doing the work, I don't want to say instead of humans, but like by humans, given by humans, and maybe by other agents and so on. Like just, it is a factory. It's a factory of, I don't know, of skill activation, you can say, of capabilities being used. I don't know how to even describe it. You can talk about tokens, but at the end of the day, it's a factory of stuff getting done. So, if you can automate a lot of stuff, why not run it 24/7? That's absolutely, Jensen is absolutely right about this. Seriously.
Yeah.
And yeah, look, I don't know if I find it kind of amusing that everyone is like, let's make OpenClaw but secure. Guys, the reason that it caught this well is because it's not secured. It's because you give everything to the AI and let it do whatever it wants. You can use the same concepts, absolutely, but like the entire thing is like is built for you delegate whatever you want, dangerously skip permissions. Like that's the core of the thing. I mean, you need to look at it, to the eyes. It's not meant for being conceptually being a secure thing. Okay, so.
But I think it can move there, and I think like companies, and we should mention Madness launched My Computer and Perplexity before, and their connectors are kind of like less like all over the place, and there is a lot of changes that OpenClaw went through since the initial inception, including sandboxing, including approval, including verification of who can talk to it, including all these things. That's very important. The thing that I want to highlight for enterprise is very important that NVIDIA know. NVIDIA is a huge enterprise themselves. There's 70,000 people they know. They want to run OpenClaw. Their security is not letting them run OpenClaw. Jensen does not run OpenClaw on Jensen's MacBook. Like I assure you, because it's, you know, you don't want to expose those company secrets. But they have they added a NemoClaw, something like a privacy router, and a policy engine integration. Policy is like a very important thing in bigger companies. Like somebody needs in a centralized place to decide on policy, what's possible, what's not possible, what's allowed, and then also external communication versus internal communication. So these models can absolutely run internally in organization if they're properly configured and hardened. The biggest thing about OpenClaw is that it can change its own configuration, for example, which sucks for bigger enterprises because they can't like control it. If you have an agent internally that can only run internally, that like is 100% only can run internally, then I think it's possible. We should mention though that Meta, I don't know if you guys saw this, Meta had a Severity 1 security leak by using agents internally this week as well. Severity 1 violation. I don't know if LDJ, maybe you saw this, but like Meta Sev 1, they called it like a very high severity rogue AI agent going in there.
No, I didn't actually read too much on this, but I did hear at like one or two other companies similar things happened recently. I mean, it's on the tip of my tongue. There is one other major company besides Meta that this happened to recently. I guess it's not coming to mind. Oh, AWS maybe.
Yeah. So for Meta, the incident unfolded like this. Routine internal help request. A Meta employee posted a technical question. Another engineer enlisted an AI agent to analyze the question. The agent posted its response publicly without first seeking the engineer's approval. Response contained flawed guidance. So basically, internal stuff that were not meant for other employees to read were exposed via these agents. So we definitely have, the enterprises have to contend with this. So I don't necessarily think that NemoClaw is the one answer, but I think it's absolutely important that OpenClaw is as popular as it is, so that many people will try to solve this problem and eventually will solve this. If you guys remember, or maybe you don't remember because you're not as old, people were afraid to add a credit card on the internet. HTTPS was not a thing a long time ago. Like we evolve as well. So a new technology, the internet is. If you think about the previous era, everything was public. There was no secure communication at all. No SSL, no TLS, nothing. The internet started like OpenClaw is starting right now. If you want to like draw this parallel.
As soon as you hooked your computer up to the internet without a firewall, which was something you didn't have at the time, you
13 seconds. Windows XP without a firewall gets hacked in 13 seconds. The second it connects to the internet. This was the state of the things before. So we're kind of in that era. Yeah, Wolfram. I remember I had this as well. Mine was hacked. Righty, folks. I think we're approaching the end, but like I just wanted to highlight how big of a moment this is. We talked to you about OpenClaw in the beginning of January, and now Jensen is covering this with 15 minutes of his 2-hour talk that is supposed to be all NVIDIA. He like covers OpenClaw. LDJ, last comment, and we'll move on.
Well, I was gonna move on from OpenClaw, but there's some other things from GTC, like the actual hardware.
You wanna cover this?
Yeah, I would say we have a lot of other things to cover, but briefly, there's an image that I put together. I put in the StreamYard chat if you want to bring that up.
Yeah, let me pull this up. Yeah.
And I feel like that probably encapsulates the most important information about what the kind of performance bumps are looking like. And they announced something called they're calling the Grok LPX.
Yes,
and this is a new Grok chip that NVIDIA is working with Grok on, and it's going to be integrated into NVIDIA's Vera Rubin generation servers.
We should remind folks, LDJ, that Grok with a Q is the LPU company, the specific chip for fast inference. Not the fastest, Cerebras and others are similarly the fastest, but Grok acquired, NVIDIA acquired Grok, or entered in a supposedly didn't acquire, but entered in a premium licensing deal, including taking Jonathan Ross and like other folks from Grok. And so now this is the first time we're seeing the productization of that effort. So please go ahead.
Yeah, so now they announced they call it the Grok 3 chip, which is interesting because I believe when I looked into it, what the current generation Grok chip is currently in production, that seems to be the first gen
The
Grok
first
chip.
gen,
So
yes, you're
yeah, so
correct. No,
they're not
nobody
even
saw the third one.
yeah, well nobody seemingly has even seen the second one.
The second one, yes.
Yeah, so and Nvidia announced a Grok 3 chip here, but yeah, so in this Rubin NVL72 system, which is 72 Rubin GPUs, this is the next generation that's about to ship later in the year, along with LPX, which is their Nvidia servers that they're planning to have these Grok 3 chips in. When you use them together in the system, then they're projecting around, depends on where you're measuring it. Most conservatively, if you want to have the most efficient tokens per second per megawatt, in other words, just saying most amount of tokens per watt of energy, then you're looking at about 3 times improvement there you can get in terms of the throughput or in terms of the amount of total efficiency effectively.
Yeah.
If you want to look at more of that midpoint, you're looking at more of like a 30x improvement. And then past that, around like 600 tokens per second area, you're not really the Blackwell servers, which is the current generation. It can't even get to that, no matter how much you're willing to sacrifice efficiency, really. But Rubin plus LPX, it can, and even at 1,000 tokens per second running kind of a frontier level model, 2 trillion parameters, 400,000 tokens context length, it still ends up being higher efficiency, more tokens per watt than Blackwell is at its best throughput here.
Yeah. I think that like we should mention the Grok folks. The CEO of Grok previously helped design or was the major designer behind the TPU chips in Google. Nvidia acquiring that and those powers and integrating into the whole stack, including the very smart kind of like balancing of how should I say, performance versus speed that we're seeing between the models as well. I think is very important. We'll see this come to fruition, I think, later this year. There's no doubt in my mind that like the jumps they're doing there are crazy. LDJ, thank you for covering this. Folks, we're almost at time. The two things I wanted to show you, I will pause my sharing, I will share again, is what I wanted to show you last time, but we didn't get a chance. This is Fish Audio. Fish.audio. This is the URL. This launched last week. We didn't have a chance to play it for you. They call it the most expressive emotion controllable real-time voice model. It's also open source. I believe it's open source. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but you can run this on their device. Let's play a sample of Sarah's voice reading something like, "Hey, welcome to ThursdAI." After I'm playing a sample. Let's see how fast this works.
Hey, welcome to ThursdAI.
It's really expressive. The coolest thing about this is that for folks who are just listening to us, let's say my name is Gasp Sarah, like this.
Hey, welcome to ThursdAI. My name is Sarah.
You can add whatever you want in these little brackets as descriptions of what needs to happen. So previous voice models, they for emotion control, they gave you like 10, 15, etc. specific tags to say, okay, laughter, emphasis, pause, etc. This model, the unique thing is you can add whatever you want. So I'm not quite sure what else to add, but long pause and then I don't know, chuckle, let's say. So I'm adding a long pause.
Hey, welcome to ThursdAI. My name is Sarah.
Well, long pause with chuckle didn't work. But it's not like...
Put something crazy. Try something really crazy.
I tried to put crazy. Like what? Like a yell? Like a scream?
I don't know. Let's...
Can it do singing if you say
stroke? A stroke or something. Sneeze. Like...
Oh, sneeze. Sneeze is great. Sneeze is great. Let's
yeah.
do sneeze. Sneeze. Sneeze is almost like a sound effect.
Hey, welcome to ThursdAI.
No, sneeze doesn't
My
work.
name is Sarah.
Sneeze doesn't work, but gasp, laughter, etc. Those things work. And I think the coolest thing about this is the voice cloning. Wolfram, go ahead.
Can it sing if you say the following in singing voice?
Let's see.
Let it sing ThursdAI.
Let's see.
Welcome to ThursdAI.
No sing song.
Maybe in front of it, so the next stuff is.
Yeah, the brackets are
Welcome to ThursdAI.
a little bit something, but it's not like super like singing.
But
It's not an
fast.
Omni model. It's really fast, and I think it's open source as well. Please, somebody confirm. And how should I say, the voice cloning and speech to text is also great, but like the voice cloning is fairly loose with what you can voice clone with, so it's really, really good. Somebody says it looks like 11 Labs v3. I think it's faster than 11 Labs v3.
It's open source, and
It is open source, yeah.
you get 11 Labs v3 for free.
Yeah, it also has multi-speaker, multi-turn, and then it's really, really fast. And also does like long audio. So this is pretty cool. For your agents, if you want to give them a voice, Fish Audio is a great example. The other thing that I did want to show as well is that Grok launched their API as well. Grok Audio, Grok Voice, I think it's called. And yeah, this. And the website is pretty cool. Oh, what is this? Grok Voice Agent API. And the website is pretty cool. You can see, you cannot see. You will be seeing in a second. Here, this is the website. I just like the amount of work they went on the website. So you can like scroll through things. You can do all kinds of things. This is Ara.
Have you heard the new Grok voice? Let me tell you a secret. I am the smartest and best AI. Give it a go. Ask me anything. I'll be your trusted personal assistant and closest companion.
So this is Ara. You can see that they're saying that they're the fastest. I don't think they added Fish Audio here, so we cannot definitely compare. It's very cheap compared to something like even 11 Labs. This is like cheaper, and then DeepGram as well. It's multilingual. I've been using this in Tesla. It's pretty good. What else? I had a thing to show you. Oh yeah, like this, like the emotions thing. You can add multiple emotions like whispers and laughters and different things. They had a different demo where you can click and add emotions. Looks like they changed the website.
Have you heard the new Grok voice?
Yeah, we heard this already. And so controlling emotions like this and pauses. What I found is if you write the script, then it's one thing. But if you give your agents the instructions, if you build a skill for your agent to actually like use those tags, should I play this? No, I don't know if I can play this, but it's okay. I'll play this a little bit. I want to finish on this. Maybe this is the last thing that I'll finish on. I had, let me see if I can pull this. I went and watched Project Hail Mary, which I recommend everybody to see. It's a great movie, really, really great movie. I came back and there's a character there that I really wanted to imitate. There's a person and a character. And I remember that also in the book, that character was very prolific and very unique. And so I really wanted my OpenClaw to talk like this. So we together built a skill. Do you guys remember the whole Anthropic getting sued by scanning books, destroying them, and training on all of them? I'm 100% sure that Project Hail Mary as a book was in Anthropic's weights because I didn't have to go all the way to tell it how to talk, but the agent picked it up very, very, very well. So here's, I think I'll finish on this and then we'll go. Here's this Rocky agent that I used Fish Audio to talks with my kid. Let's see if I can play this for you guys.
Rocky, can you come down to our planet, please? To Earth, to water, to everything you want.
This is my 5-year-old talking to Rocky, and this is Rocky's response. This is again OpenClaw running a skill using Fish Audio.
Oh, small human invite Rocky to Earth. This is most kind invitation Rocky ever receive. And think about this. Rocky body is question. Rocky is engineer, made of light and math. But if Rocky could come, would want to see water. Arid has no water.
So none of this was in the skill. If you ever listen to Project Hail Mary, you have just been teleported back to the book because the cloning just worked like amazingly. So this is Fish Audio, and I think it's time for us to conclude the show. Folks, there's a bunch of stuff that we did not get to cover because the world is moving super quick, quicker and quicker. And so I'll just maybe run through the stuff that we didn't cover, just mention, although we did start with them in TLDR. We didn't get to the subagents for Codex, which is now supported. It's really, really good, specifically with GPT 5.4 mini and nano. We didn't mention, we mentioned this, but we didn't cover this. Manus has My Computer local extension to run things on your computers with the Manus agents. This is meta. We didn't talk about DLSS 5 making the waves, generative AI filters that improve game engines. Some people say they improve, some people say they don't improve. Also announced at GTC and a bunch of other stuff. We didn't get to talk about the Xiaomi Omni models that were unveiled as the open router ones. But I think generally we did a good job covering things. We didn't cover Mamba 3 as well. With this, I hope that this has been exciting for any of you. I hope that this was illuminating. Nistan, you didn't follow the news. Hopefully now you're caught up like everybody else. Folks, ThursdAI is here for the last 3 years to tell you about everything that happens in the world of AI. I'm a little under the weather today, so this is why the energy is kind of like slower, perhaps. But still, a lot has happened. If you missed any part of the show, ThursdAI is getting turned into a newsletter and a podcast every Thursday. Please follow us on socials. We have a new social media clip strategy. If you follow us on YouTube, you will get highlights of the show. Please share those with your friends as well, and give us 5 stars.
No breaking news today.
We did have breaking news. Composer 2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we did have breaking news.
Okay, yeah. Okay, all right.
Composer 2. And then we also had something from Logan about vibe coding in Google AI Studio. All right, folks, this is it. After 2 hours and something, thank you so much for joining. Please give us 5 stars everywhere where you listen to the show. Appreciate all of you tuning in. Bye-bye. Wolfram, you had one last comment? I see you.
One last comment, because how fast things are moving, it's nice to have finally a little slower show where yeah, the feeling, the energy may be a bit lower, but it's a nice contrast to how fast everything is moving.
My energy is lower because I'm sick. I don't know about y'all, but this is maybe why. But yeah, definitely no huge releases this week, but great releases overall. I think it's because everybody's in GTC, and next week we're going to see a lot. So see you guys next week. Bye-bye, everyone.